Hello! So today we're going to have a look at the Fenix Airbus in Microsoft Flight Simulator. This was updated today. Apparently the new version of the Fenix Airbus is much better on frame rate than it was previously. So we're going to find out all about that. We've loaded it into the version of Stansted Airport that's available from flightsim.to, which you can see around us, which is very, very high fidelity, and we're really going to push it and see how jittery it becomes, especially on approach. Full disclosure, I just did a full flight with the Airbus from Ljubljana down to Sarajevo, and it froze on approach and then crashed the airplane into the ground because the stuttering was so bad from the rest of the simulator, I'm guessing, as it released from the freeze on approach. God knows why it froze, but yeah, it caused the airplane to crash, so I lost basically an hour's worth of showing you the Fenix Airbus, which until then had been absolutely exemplary. So I have no doubt it was actually the simulator that pulled the rug out from under it. But we're going to do a little test flight around Stansted anyway, just to have a play with the Airbus. So we'll go and jump inside. I'm not going to use head tracking to do this, we're just going to run around the airplane ourselves. So first thing we're going to do is go and open the tablet up, make sure it's warmed up, and then we'll go to the overhead panel, go and turn the batteries on. I'm going to do all of this quite quickly. We're going to use external power because we have it available. We're going to go and put the strobe lights on auto. We're going to put the nav and logo to 1. We're going to go to the APU, turn the master switch on, and then start the APU. All in its own good time. I'm going to go and turn the oxygen for the crew supply to on. Then go to the signs and set the emergency lights to armed and no smoking to auto. Then we're going to go further overhead, which I think we can see up here. Oops, just turn that back off for the moment. So turn the 3 inertial navigation systems on, so we'll wait for the fault light to go out on each one. The beeps you can hear are various things booting up around the cockpit, which is completely normal. So then we'll go status screen, system number 1, and it says 9 minutes until alignment. That's all fine. So we'll probably get there around the same time it does. Okay, MCDU next then, so come down to the MCDU, select desired system, FMGC, go to the init page. We're going from Stansted, which is EGSS, we're coming back into Stansted, so this will test it out really, see if we can get it confused. Flight number, we'll just invent one, so VFL and 123 maybe, 23. Drop that in. Cost index 100. Again, we're not using a proper flight plan to do this. So cruise flight level, we're going to say 6,000 feet. And we could get the wind. So we can request the wind. Let's see if it works. Give it a few moments. It's worked. Fantastic. And then we can go sideways to the next page and we can put in the weights from the tablet. So we can go into the Fenix app, go to the weight and balance, is it called, section? Mass and balance. So we want the zero fuel weight, which will be 53.6, so press Control 1 to come back down. So 53.6, Control 3 takes us back, and we also want the max zero fuel weight percentage 29.2, so /29.2. Drop those in. We want the block fuel. Now, I haven't actually gone and done that yet, so if we go back to the tablet and go to my flight and tap to import from SimBrief, it's telling me that the time is out because I put it on daytime at Stansted, so that's not an issue. Then we go back over to the... oh, we want the fuel, don't we? Sorry. So we can go to mass and balance. Now we've got the flight details. We can load the aircraft based on the load sheet, or we should be able to anyway. So if we do reset all, what happens? So yeah, that does that. So if we go to my flight again, tap to import that from SimBrief. This is quite instructive actually to show you what's going on here, because it's not obvious. This all relies on SimBrief to do this. So we can pull the data from there. We go to mass balance, and then we can load the aircraft, and it asks us how quickly you want to do it, and we'll just say instant. So that means we have now got the fuel and everything in the aircraft as per the load sheet. So, and the passengers on board, otherwise you have to sit here for ages waiting for them to get on the airplane. So the fuel on block is what we're interested in, so 4104. Okay, so if we go and press Control 1, 4.1 goes in the block fuel. And we can clear the message from earlier about the wind. So that's all done. So then we can go into the flight plan page. So we can go to Stansted. We are departing on runway 22. We're not using a standard instrument departure. We're going to arrive back at Stansted on runway 22 on the ILS. We're not going to use a standard terminal arrival route, so we'll insert that. But we are going to put some waypoints in to make a little racetrack route around the airfield. So let's go and have a quick look at that on here. So actually, because I've got the chart showing at the moment, you can't see them. So we're going to Ekveg, Oduku, Brain, Abbott, and Topvo. So Ekveg, so E-K-V-E-G. Drop that in the middle of the flight plan. Then Oduku, so O-D-U-K-U. Then Brain, B-R-A-I-N. There's two brains. That'll be the one in England with the 52 degrees north, and we can push this further up so we can see what we're doing. Then Abbott, A-B-B-O-T. Drop that one in, and then Topvo, T-O-T-V-O, and we'll drop that one in. So scroll it all up a little bit. We want to clear out this discontinuity and insert that into the machine, and it calculates everything for us, which is fantastic. And we're pretty much good to go. So if we press flight plan, it takes us straight back up to the top. We haven't put the performance data in yet, so we need to go and calculate the V-speeds. So we can do that in the tablet again. So if we go back into the departure performance page, once we've got the data from SimBrief and the load sheet and everything, we can sync this with the load sheet, which fills it up with numbers. We can sync this with the live weather, which gives us that. And that then allows us to calculate immediately. And that would give us the V-speeds up here. So 141 and 151. So Control 1. So 141, 151, and 151. We also want the flaps settings, so we're going to go for 1 down 0.3. So back down here. So 1 DN 0.3. And we can drop that into flaps. What about the flex temp? 53 degrees. What about the engine out number? 1330. Okay. We can leave all of the rest of it, I think, completely as standard. So then we'll go to flight plan page. We've already done all of that, so that's all done. So then we go to the master control panel for the autopilot, Control 7. We'll press B to calibrate all of the altimeters around the aircraft to shortcut it. We'll go and set our target altitude for our climb, which will be 6,000 feet today. And come back to the pilot position. We're going to uncage the standby attitude indicator. That's all done. Go back overhead, turn the seatbelt sign to on, turn the external power to off because we have cross-fed over to the APU already. Go to the tablet, go over to the Fenix app, go to ground services and remove the GPU from the aircraft now and remove the chocks and the cones when it listens to me. Go back overhead, put the beacon light to on, which basically indicates we're about to start the engines. Fuel pumps go to on, so there's the left pumps, the centre tank pumps and the right pumps. And then we can perform pushback if we need to. We don't need to where we're parked at Stansted. I've done that on purpose. So then we can go and put the APU bleed on, which provides the air pressure to spin the engines up, and we can go and start the engines. So I had some fun and games with this earlier, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. So I'm going to turn the ignition on my Airbus quadrant here. So that worked. Okay, ignition has switched over. So then we're going to start engine number 2, and it's working. You can see the N2 is increasing for engine number 2. So we sit and wait until that stabilises, and then we can start engine number 1 in exactly the same way. We just flick the switch forwards. So you can hear the aeroplane coming to life behind us quietly. Apologies for that noise, that was just me having a swig of coffee. Hit the microphone with the mug. Okay, so we can go and start engine number 1 now. So if you watch the switches, we'll keep an eye on it. So engine number 1, you saw the switch go forwards down there, the N2 number is coming up. So we'll just sit and wait for that now. You see our nice little racetrack course we've made on the navigation display. That implies, yeah, as soon as you get an artificial horizon and the navigation display lights up, it generally means that the inertial navigation system's working as well, which is good. It's a while since I've flown the Airbus actually. It's a bit of a trip down memory lane for me. The clicking you can hear is, can you see that? The ignition switch just moved all on its own. So we're going to turn it off now because we don't need it, thankfully. It's a bit of a boneheaded design decision of the way they made the Thrustmaster Airbus quadrant that causes that problem. So you can see down here we got a predictive wind shear issue, but I'm just going to go through first and check a few things off around the airplane. So obviously now the airplane's running, we don't need the APU bleed on, we don't need the APU on. Flaps can go to takeoff position, so we watch this lever here to make sure it does what I tell it to do on the quadrant. We saw on the eCam screen a message about predictive wind shear, so that goes to auto, which will make that shut up basically. We can also pull up the ground spoilers, and TCAS is on standby at the moment, so we'll go and put TCAS on TARA and we'll turn it on. There is a company message that will be confirming the load sheet, I imagine, so we'll go and have a look. So ATSU, AOC, and receive messages, and yeah, it's the load sheet. So we see the load sheet, we can accept that, and we can return. Parking brake is on, APU is still available at the moment. Ground spoilers are armed, seatbelt sign is on, no smoking sign is ready, so we are ready to taxi. So we're going to come off the parking brake and we're going to see just how good the turning circle is on this. So we're going to go full right, tiller. Hopefully we're not going to hit the truck. But we probably are going to take out the baggage. What a silly place to leave himself. Okay, I'm not going to do a 180 here. We're going to drive through the baggage trolleys. So yeah, comparing, you think what this is throwing around in the simulator, all these aeroplanes and an enormous complicated airfield, it's actually doing remarkably well in terms of frame rate. I'm stunned actually. Much better than some of the far less complicated aeroplanes. So it just shows you there are ways and means of getting good frame rate out of complex structures in Flight Simulator, and this has probably the most photorealistic cockpit of any aircraft in the sim. So we're just going to pull out onto the runway. We'll go the quick route here. So below 10,000 feet we will put landing lights on when we get out onto the runway, and the strobes as well obviously. So we're just taxiing out. There's no hurry. We're only going to do a short flight today. This is really just about seeing how smooth the Airbus is. You know, obviously we could do a full flight like I did earlier, but obviously a glitch undid that, so you're getting this abbreviated racetrack around Stansted just to put the Airbus through its paces, to be honest. So let's straighten the cockpit up, straighten the airplane up on the runway. Parking brake on for a moment. So our landing lights go to on, strobe goes to on, although it could go on auto, couldn't it? Then let the Airbus do some things for us. We put the auto brakes on max, turn off the parking brake, centre the view up, throttles advanced to toga. And we're waiting now for the rotate speed to come past on the indicated airspeed ribbon. So we wait and we wait. We're having to hold a small amount of right rudder to keep the centre line. So here comes the rotate marker. So no more than 3 degrees a second. And we're up 15 degrees for the initial climb out. We've gone a bit steep there. So gear up, straighten up. Throttles to the climb detent. Autopilot on. Should we put the head tracking on? See, look how smooth this is. They really have done a number with this, haven't they? It's very good. It's very, very good. So you can see we're just accelerating out, so I'm going to raise the flaps now. It's on managed mode for speed and heading and for the target altitude. So the airplane is looking after us basically. We don't need the ground spoilers armed anymore. So aircraft's accelerating out to 250 knots now. You see that happening on the primary flight display, and you can see us approaching the first turn at Ekvej, coming up through 3,500 feet. So you're going to have a look from outside. It's very good, isn't it? Should be turning left any moment. Or maybe not any moment, in a few moments' time. Should we have a look inside? It'd be interesting actually to watch the flight director go and jump across. And there it goes. It's remarkably clear weather today. Perfect for a test flight. You can see the Thames estuary over there. So just to give you your bearings, London's over there behind us. You see the city. We're just north of the city, or northeast I should say. If you look around this way you can probably see the city even better. Just on the limit of the rendering distance. Okay, so the aircraft's chugging along at 250 knots on its way to Oduku. We'll turn off the head tracking for a moment. So the flaps are up. We're keeping the landing lights on below 10,000 feet. Should we have a little look at the various displays? So we've got the legs page, we've also got a progress page, which is quite cool. And we've got a flight plan page. So I'm always debating which is the best screen, or which is the best display to have on which MCDU. It's funny, look, it's got an optimum of 330. How is it ever going to get to 33,000 feet on this little racetrack trip? It's not. Let's see if we zoom out on this, what it makes of our descent point. Because ideally we want to be at 2,500 feet above the ground on the way into the ILS. So let's have a look at this in LittleNavMap. It kind of renders it quite nicely for us. So if we click on Stansted here, so Stansted's at 348 feet and we want 2,500 feet above that, so we want 2,800 feet, 2,900 feet when we come off of the end of Topvo basically. So we need to lose, after we just come between Brain and Abbott, we need to start descending to lose 3,000 feet basically. But it'd be interesting to see if the aeroplane has got that in its head. Yeah, it's got it just before Abbott, look. Fascinating. And then it's got a deceleration point as well. Just before Topvo. Interesting. So this aircraft's got, as you saw from the load sheet, you can go and do tricks like going to the MCDU, going to ATSU, go to AOC. We can do a weather request. So if we go and say EGSS, for example, and drop that into the ident and say METAR and TAF please, and send the message. And then if we come back out of here and go to received messages, Yeah, it's done it already, look. We've got weather data has come in, and we've got the... if we zoom in on this, you've got the weather at Stansted, so 200 degrees, 8 knots. It's very cool, isn't it? QNH 1019. Which we are already at. Obviously we're not going above the transition altitude today. I think it might be 6,000 feet, is it? Should we just check? So let's have a look at the approach chart. Yeah, 6,000 feet. So we could go to standard, but we're going to leave it. We're at 6,000. We'll just leave it as is. We could go to standard barometric pressure though, which would be 2992 or 1013 hectopascals, but we'll leave it alone. Yeah, you can see it's flashing. It kind of wants us to, so if we did pull it, it puts us 200 feet below where we should be. So the airplane's going to correct for that. We think it would. Presumably I'd have to... That's interesting though, it won't do it. Or maybe it's just taking its time to think about it. No, it's not going to, look. Now it's saying there's a discrepancy. This is interesting, because different aeroplanes in the sim behave in different ways with this stuff. So we've got both systems on standard now. So left and right. It's interesting, some aeroplanes are synchronized, some it isn't. So coming around towards Brain. So at some point in the not too distant future, let's put these back on the local barometric pressure, and let's just put this back to 3,000 feet. Or we wanted 2,900 actually, didn't we? So we'll set 2,900 as the height we want to get to. We won't do it just yet though. So we're not going to push this knob until we get halfway between Brain and Abbott at least. So let's zoom back into this so we can see that a little bit better. We'll just ignore that flashing away for us at the moment. We're not going to be taking the seatbelt signs off, I'm afraid, to all the passengers that have boarded this aeroplane for the test flight. We're being tremendously uncooperative pilots. Yeah, we have crept. Oh no, we're still at 6,000, of course we are, because we're on the barometric, same barometric pressure we were when we reached 6,000. So, in the distance over there, oh, look at the stim stutter as it tries to load the assets for Stansted in the distance. So this is the flightsim.to version of Stansted, by the way, the free one. I'm not sure if I mentioned that earlier. There's probably no point turning on terrain because, yeah, it's pretty flat around here. We're not going to really see very much. It's nice that it's been implemented though. Okay, shall we begin this descent so we don't have a hurry? So we press the top half of the altitude knob, and that tells us do a managed descent to 2,900 feet, so it started going down at 500 feet a minute. Throttles are still on a climb to 10. Be fascinating to watch actually. So we'll leave that screen over there on the navigation display, And we'll turn this one over to landing system, see what it shows. We'll also go and check. So we're expecting 110.5 222 degrees on the radio. So let's go and have a look at that. 110.5 222, brilliant. 3-degree glide slope. It's saying enter destination data. It's only saying that because if we go into, is it in performance? I can never remember where this is. Yeah, it wants the QNH 1019. 1019. So we'll drop that in. It wants the temperature as well. That's really handy, isn't it? So EGSS, open airport, weather, temperature 20 centigrade. So Barrow, radio, I'm going to leave the rest empty. We can clear that message out. So we're coming down towards 2,900 feet now. We're going to, the airplane is decelerating actively, it's just started doing it. Just going to keep an eye out down here. It's still asking for more destination, more destination data. But we are going to watch out for the glide slope. I'm surprised I'm not seeing it. So, oh, here we go, I have to turn the landing system on. So we then go to approach mode, so that's my bad, I'd forgotten all about that. And we'll go and put the spoilers out to help it out a little bit. It's jumping around, isn't it? So you can see there's the airfield out in front of us.
2,500.
So we'll go for the first stage of flaps. We'll also put the gear down. So it's tracking pretty well. So shall we have a fly? Let's not let the airplane have all the fun, hey? So we're going to turn off the auto throttle and get rid of the alarms. So we're going low, so I'm just going to prove I'm flying this, so give the wings a wiggle. Next stage of flaps. Get back on the glide slope. Next stage of flaps, and then full flaps. And we're going high, so we're just going to
1,000.
put the spoilers out a little bit and descend a little bit more quickly. This is really just me having a play with the airplane to see how it behaves. Whoa, look at that stutter from the airfield. Loading in. So we've gone below the glide slope now.
Speed, speed, speed. Speed, speed, speed.
Yes, I know. It'd be interesting actually to see with this version of Stansted. Look, we've got 2 reds and 2 whites on the PAPI lights, but it's showing us as below the glide slope, and now it's saying we are too high, but we're still below the glide slope. Interesting. So which do we believe? I'm going to go with the PAPI lights.
Glide slope. Glide slope.
So we're still too high. Yeah,
Flight
the
slope.
PAPI lights look correct.
Flight slope.
40, 30, 20. Retard. Retard. Retard.
We lost a lot of lift very quickly right at the end, didn't we? So let's go reverses and see how they work. Very well. So come back off them at 80 knots, go for wheel brakes. And high speed exit. Flaps can come back up. That was interesting. We lost a lot of lift just over the apron. So the ILS didn't line up with the PAPI lights. And as we got into the kind of 130 knot realm, it suddenly fell out of the air. Probably get a real Airbus pilot telling us that's exactly what the real thing does. And you shouldn't come in that slow. I should have been at 140. It was interesting as well to see how quickly the engines didn't respond to the throttle. So you have to be ahead of the aircraft by, you know, quite considerably. It's not like flying a fighter jet. Obviously. Okay, so while we're taxiing in, the strobes can go back to... oh, they're on auto, that's fine. The landing lights can come back to off and retracted. We can go and fire up the APU on the way back in. So we'll turn it back to the master switch back to on. We'll try and steer while we're doing it, hey. And turn the APU back on, and hopefully by the time we get to the parking area it'll be up and running and we can turn the engines off. It's the fastest taxi ever seen. Look at it bumping around. That was interesting how it... the thing I'm most interested in was that final kind of 100 yards over the runway apron. The discrepancy between the ILS and the PAPI lights and the loss of lift. So more practice required and a little bit of investigation to find a decent airfield where everything lines up. Maybe I get a paid version of Stansted and see if it's any better. Okay, parking brake on. APU should be up and running. We can check that by looking on the APU eCam screen, and it's flap open and it's generating power, so yes, we can go and kill the engines. And obviously you can go back around the aeroplane switching everything off that you switched on earlier. We're not going to bother doing everything. This was just a demonstration flight to see how things are looking, but the it's a lot smoother, isn't it? The Fenix is now very, very smooth. I'm really surprised at just how good it is. Brakes are hot. That was when we came diving down that high-speed taxiway. Anyway, delay takeoff for cool. Very cool. Does it give us the door wheels? There we go. Oh yeah, they are quite hot. It's that one, isn't it? It's only a few degrees hotter than the others. Anyway, I'm going to leave that there. Hopefully you enjoyed that. So that was the updated Fenix Airbus in Flight Simulator. It's much smoother than it was, so yeah, really, really nice aeroplane now. Anyway, I'll hopefully see you again soon.